Hello and welcome back, high school hockey fans. Another edition of This Week in Wisconsin Prep Hockey. For the first time in a while, we've got a full panel tonight. Both Bill and Bill Jr., Trasher, and Del Scanlon, who was off sick last week, is back with us. And we'll be hearing from everybody during this segment, this program tonight. Let's start with our games of the week last week we had here on WIPH. Boys' game of the week, Wapaka was at Northland Pines in a great Northern Conference battle, and Bill Jr. was there.
Does anybody else feel like MJ just implied that we're a couple cards short of a full deck most of the time?
Well,
is he wrong?
Not necessarily.
Depends on the subject.
Yes, I was in Northland Pines with my lovely assistant photographer, Burglar, for the last game of the Great Northern Conference regular season. We've been pushing for it for a couple of years, and I know Anago coach Matt Boardman has been pushing for it for a couple of years, but this year the Great Northern Conference has adopted the what's that other conference? The Badgerland Conference's format of playing each other once and then playing a conference tournament to end the season. All the conference seeds were set before that Friday night battle, but the top seed, Northland Pines and Wapaka, were both 6-0 in conference play heading into that game. So we figured we'd make the trek up to Eagle River, pick up Brett along the way, and see what happened. It looked good coming out the gate. Wapaka picked off a errant breakout pass in the Pine zone, a nice pass to the front of the net to Mitchell Tresbiatowski, and he put it in to give Wapaka a 1-0 lead just 33 seconds into the game. And we're all right, we got a good one. But that's about where it turned for Wapaka. The game ended up, I'm not going to bore you with all the details, ended up being 11-2 in favor of the Eagles. They really turned it on. Jack Rohde, senior captain for the Eagles, scored 3 of their first 4 goals. I believe he scored 4 in the game total. Pines was just too fast for Wapaka, and it looks like going into the Great Northern Conference tournament that Pines is going to be a force to reckon with for all those other small schools in the Great Northern Conference. It was a good game. Neither team got chippy, which was nice to see. We've all been to more than a few running time games in our days where the losing team starts getting chippy and things get bad. That never happened. There was never a sign out of Wapaka that they were getting that direction. They do have some nice players on their team, but they just could not keep up with the speed of Pines. Pines was extremely fast, and every time there was 2 Wapaka Comets in the corner going for a puck, there was 3 skaters from Pines. If there was 2 Comets in front of the net, there was 3 for Pines. They just swarmed all over the ice and were too much for the Comets to keep up with. Just too many wide open players in front of the net. Wapaka goalie really didn't have much of a chance in this game. But that sets the seeding for the Great Northern Conference tournament with the Pines at number 1, Wapaka at number 2, and that tournament will kick off on Thursday, January 24th, and it will end on Saturday, February 2nd. And I believe Burglar and I decided we will be in Anago for the final day of the Great Northern Conference tournament.
So Northland Pines is a team that's been in our top 10. Pretty good team. I take it that you got to see.
Yeah, they are. And we did have our first adventure in officiating, where Pines defenseman put a Wapaka player on his back, and referee immediately threw up his arm and blew the whistle. Then had to think about and talk to the other referee and the linesman to determine, well, what exactly did the guy do wrong? Because he didn't really cross-check and he didn't really do this, and they made no signal when blowing the whistle initially. Because I was watching to see what the heck they were going to call, and they did make no signal. But when they announced it over the PA system, they announced that it was a penalty for head contact. It happened right in front of us, and I just fortunate enough that I pushed a little shutter release button on my camera at the time and got a nice picture of the Pines defenseman's shoulder in the chest of the Wapaka player. No contact to any head of any kind, but I think officially, unofficially, he got a penalty for checking that guy too hard.
Yeah, it was actually a clean, beautiful check. But the game was starting to get out of hand at that point, and I think that ref was just preemptively trying to keep things in line to give him the benefit of the doubt. But that was Burglar got a picture of it. It is shoulder to chest, no head contact. He didn't leave his feet, no cross check, no elbow, no nothing. The player's head he was trying to make a mover on the defenseman and didn't make it. It was not a defenseless player. It was nothing. But it could just be preemptive, keep the game in line before anything gets out of hand. But like I said, Wapaka never got, to their credit, they never got chippy or any of that stuff that we all see dumb high school kids do when they get behind in a game.
Well, they call head contact, and obviously, as you say, he didn't touch his head. Well, then why call head contact? Could you just call roughing or interference or something to that effect?
Well, it wasn't interference. I mean, the guy had the puck.
Yeah,
Okay.
you'd be hard pressed to call roughing or interference. So if you were going to get together and call something, I mean, you're limited to elbowing, cross checking, or head contact, which all revolve around the position of the check. So at that point, it's just kind of a roll the dice and pick one. Yeah, because the only thing that contacted the ice was the back of his head when he went down. He didn't hit it that hard.
Bet that's happened. I bet that happens a few times during the season where the ref sees a big hit and it's like, oh, I got to call something. Well, what do you call?
Yeah, you know where that happens a lot, and I think Trasher and Dell will back me up on this. Where that happens a lot is in girls' games, where it's referees who normally ref the boys' games, and they're doing a girls' game, and they see two girls run into each other, and one of them falls down, so they have to call a penalty on the one who's still standing.
Call a body check.
Yeah, even though they just ran into each other. You see a lot of that.
You know, when you think about that in girls, where is the line drawn between coincidental contact and body check?
Usually it's the position of the player. Like if you dip your shoulder or, turn your hip, something to, direct your force to a certain point on the opposition. If you just, face to face, flat out running into each other, then that's just, incidental contact. But when one of the players, actually bends or moves to direct all of their force at one point, then that's usually when you consider it to be a body check.
Even like going along the boards and positioning to get the puck?
Well, you can rub them out along the boards.
It depends on your referee too. If you got referees that are used to having done a lot of girls' games and everything, and they're used to saying, because coaching girls hockey, you tell them we play physical hockey, but we don't check, we don't drop our shoulder and bring them into the boards. You can ride them into the boards just like you teach them like when you're teaching your peewees and your squirts. You sit there and you tell them, okay, you pinch into the boards, you pin their stick against the boards, and it's the same thing you're telling the girls. It's and it depends on your referee. If your referee's has done a lot of girls' games, I mean, the game I saw this weekend, which we'll talk about in a little bit, I don't think I had one checking call in and everything. A lot of it's going to boil down onto your referees and what they're used to officiating.
Yeah, like if you're playing defense and someone's coming in on you and they try to go in that gap between you and the boards, you're not duty bound to let them go through that gap just because there's no checking. You are allowed to move into that space. You don't, just because there's no checking doesn't mean they have free reign to skate around you. You can close that gap between you and the boards. You just can't drive your shoulder into the other player.
Right. Or if they're coming down on you one-on-one and try to, poke the puck between your legs and get out, you can step in front of them so they run into you. You just can't drop your shoulder.
Okay.
But that's enough of that sidetrack. Let's move on to Dell's game.
Yes, Dell, you got the girls' game of the week. Fox Cities. Boy, they've been tough all year, and they were at Alaska.
Yep, the Stars against the Hilltoppers, and this game started out in a flurry. We had 3 goals in the first 53 seconds of the game. Onalaska jumped out to a lead 21 seconds in, but it was short-lived. As 16 seconds later, Fox City tied the game, and then, like I said, 53 seconds in, they were up by 1 to take the 2-1 lead and never relinquished it from there on. They built the lead up to 3-1 at the end of 1. Second period basically had the same thing. Both teams scored, but Fox Cities outscored Onalaska 3-1 in that second period to go up 6-2 at the end of 2, and then outscored Onalaska again in the third period 2-1 to win the game 8-3. But the impressive part of this team from Fox City Stars was the Jablonski, Horman, and Hull show. Those 3 girls were there and are probably 3 of the best players you're going to find on one line throughout the state. Jablonski and Horman are 1-2 in the state in both goals and points, and they're just a very impressive team. Trasher, I think you've gotten to see Fox City Stars this year, and like I said, they're an impressive team. There's a total of 3 penalties called in this game, and overall it was a good game, but it was just too much speed and pressure being put on the Onalaska goalie. I believe the final shots in the game were like 37-9. That Onalaska got outshot by.
It's a big gap, 37-9.
Yep, and out of those nine shots, you figure Onalaska scored 3 goals, and so it's one of the things that with Fox City Stars is their offense is what's going to depend on what's going to carry them through the tournament to try to make it to state, and they're in a rough conference. Sectional too. I believe the Fox City Stars are in sectional 2 with the Storm, if I'm correct. I didn't look that up, but yeah. So I mean, they're going to have a tough sectional in order to make it to state.
Was it one of those things, Del, where their best defense is they got a strong offense?
That is true. Their best defense is their strong offense.
Offense wins games.
And everything. And the first goal that was scored on the Stars was a beautiful goal. Bronston brought it in to the goalie's left-hand side coming in at her, and goalie dropped, and she went top shelf and just put that thing just behind the crossbar for the goal. So I mean, it was a beautiful shot to get that goal in the 21 seconds. But the thing is their team does an excellent job at hustling back on defense to limit the shots on their goalie, and that's one of the things they're going to have to do. If you sit there and you tell any coach that your team limited them to less than double digits shots on goal, your coach is going to be happy.
Del, I looking this up now. The Fox City Stars play in sectional 4.
Oh, in sectional 4
this year. Well, that's nothing on the WIAA site says Fox City Stars, but there's a team listed. Let's see: Xavier, Appleton East, Northwest, Fox Valley Lutheran, Freedom, Hortonville, Kaukauna, Kimberly, Little Chute, Menasha, Neenah, New London, St. Mary's Catholic, Two Rivers, and Wrightstown.
And that is our Fox City Stars. As soon as you said Neenah, I knew where we're at.
Wow. That's a co-op.
Yeah.
I mean, very impressive team, and it's going to be interesting to see who comes out of that conference. I did get to talk to the coaches a little bit before the game and talk to them and say, so did you guys ask them if they played last night? Well, of course, the night before was their overtime game that they played against USM, and of course that was a game that talking to the coaches. they were down 4-2, came back and took a 5-4 lead, and with less than a minute to go in regulation, game got tied up, and Jablonski scored the game winner in overtime in that one. So probably a little bit of tired legs, playing that one at home and then coming on over to Alaska for 4 o'clock in the afternoon game on Saturday. But all in all, they come up with two nice wins over the 2 days, and they came out saying they were very impressed with the USM too. So that's another one of the teams that have been in our top 10 all season long. So sounds like we have some good teams up there in the top 10 this year.
We'll see where the top 10 falls a little bit later on in the show. We'll find out on the girls' side to see how much bouncing around there was. And also on the boys' side, that's coming up in a little bit. Other game recaps, I guess the only other game I talk about is the Beloit-Janesville one, the good old Highway 51 battle down here in Rock County. And Janesville won that game 3-0. Ben Coulter and Connor Joyce combined on all 3 goals. That's top line along with Tyler Edwards. They scored 2 in the first period, outshooting Beloit 12-1. Beloit's first shot on goal came in the final seconds of the first period on basically just a dump into the zone, and it went in on net, and save had to be made. Second period, just more, 19-3 the shots were. But Aiden Wright, this young man is only a sophomore for Beloit, but he put on a show. He kept them in the game all by himself. 19-3 the shots were in the second period, and Janesville couldn't score until under a minute to go in the second to make it 3-0, and they outshoot Beloit 11-6 in the last period, and they end up winning the game 3-0. Aiden Wright for Beloit, 40 saves in that game on 43 shots, a phenomenal effort for him. Up and coming goaltender. I know my son played with him on one of those before and after teams, and even when he was younger, you could see he was pretty good goaltender. And as he's hit high school now, he's gotten a little bit bigger, and he's done a pretty good job. He's their only goaltender, so he's going to get plenty of work, and he got plenty of work against Janesville. But Janesville was able to hold Beloit scoreless, and the final score was 3-0 of that game back on Thursday night. Our player of the week, girls and boys, Burglar, tell us about him.
Thanks, MJ. On the girls' side, she was mentioned earlier during Dell's recap of our girls' game of the week, Lauren Hull of the Fox City Stars. In a 6-5 win over the University School Co-op, she had a goal and 2 assists. And in the 8-3 win over Onalaska that Dell recapped for us, she had 2 goals and 3 assists. So Lauren Hull, with 3 goals and 5 assists over the 2 games, is our girls' player of the week. On the boys' side, we talked about him before we went on the air here. Hailing from Madison West, Drake Baldwin, a senior forward. He had a goal in a 4-2 loss to Middleton. He had 2 goals in a 3-1 win over Madison Memorial, and a whopping 4 goals and 3 assists in a 7-3 win over Madison Edgewood. So he had a hand in all of Madison West scoring in that win over Madison Edgewood. So total of 7 goals and 3 assists in the 3 games for Drake Baldwin, the senior catcher for Madison West.
Senior catcher?
Yeah.
During baseball season.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
He's a forward in hockey.
And I need to break in with some breaking news. The Central Wisconsin Storm just beat the Eau Claire area Stars 2-0. So, our new girls' top 10 is already invalid. Just wanted to let you know. Back as you were.
Well, speaking of top 10s, we were just getting to that. And, Junior, that's what you talk about is the top 10.
But I already talked this week, MJ.
Well, You already wrecked the girls' top 10 already with that breaking news, but let's go ahead and go through it anyways. And I guess we can already say on Monday night there may be some changes on the girls' side next week. But go ahead. What do you got for top 10 boys and girls?
Sure. The University School of Milwaukee is still holding strong at number 1 for the boys. Verona is up 1 to second. Superior is up 2 to third. Wausau West falls from second to fourth. That's what happens when you lose to a non-ranked team. Sun Prairie drops from 4th to 5th. Northland Pines is 6th. Onalaska is 7th. Spash is 8th. Neenah Hortonville Menasha is 9th, and Hudson is 10th. Honorable mention for the boys are Chippewa Falls, Eau Claire Memorial, Eau Claire North, Notre Dame Academy, and Waukesha. For the girls, the top 2 are the same. Fox City Stars are number 1. Eau Claire Area Stars are number 2. The Warbird Beaver Dam Co-op is now 3rd. Central Wisconsin Storm dropped to 4th. Western Wisconsin Stars are 5th. Hudson is 6th. St. Croix Valley Fusion are 7th. USM is 8th. The Rock County Fury are 9th. And the Bay Area Ice Bears are 10th, up from honorable mention. And the Hayward Co-op drops to honorable mention.
Well, there wasn't a whole lot of movement on the girls' side.
Nope, just the Warbirds and the Storm switched between 3 and 4.
And like you said, that this could all be changing again next week. Looking on the boys' side, boy, talk about a little bit of pushing and shoving at the top.
Yeah, Wausau West, it doesn't matter if either of them is having a down year. Their games with Eau Claire Memorial are always 1-goal games. If they don't go into overtime, it's just a thing that happens. But they took that loss to Eau Claire Memorial 2-1 on home ice. So yeah, they dropped 2 from 2nd to 4th, which moved Verona and Superior up, despite the fact that Verona kind of got spanked by Wausau West the week before, 5-1. But that's what happens. There's still 4 teams from the Big Rivers Conference: Hudson, Chippewa Falls, Eau Claire Memorial, and Eau Claire North, all sitting right at the bottom of the top 10 or the honorable mentions. That's a pretty impressive grouping for that conference.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chippewa Falls has got in there early in the season, and they're still holding strong there in the honorable mention. Not really been able to crack into the top 10 and move up anywhere at all. But as I was looking at this, I see USM is still number 1, and ran into Robbie Newton back last weekend here in Janesville. He come down to watch the Janesville Jets play as he's signed a tender with the Jets. And I'll talk a little bit about his season, and he's pretty excited about their chances this year. And with the offense and the good play and goal they've got, USM is, they're going to be hard to beat down the stretch, but still a long ways to go. And we'll see how all shakes down as sectionals and playoffs are, what would you say, about 3-4 weeks away? Something like that?
Something like that. They'll be up in Eagle River this weekend for the Pines Classic. On Friday, they'll play Hayward. And depending on how that game goes, they'll play the winner or loser of Northland Pines and Mosinee. They also play on Friday, and so that'll be played on Saturday.
That could be a dandy of a game on Saturday if they end up playing Pines. Next week's games of the week, Trasher, you want to tell us about them?
Yeah, let me wake up first. I kind of fell asleep here. Next week,
everybody was going to talk.
We weren't that boring.
No, you just didn't let me talk, so I thought, well, I'll just keep it on mutant and just sit here. But I knew I'd get my time.
We had breaking news.
I'm the one that put the score up.
I saw the tweets. I get the notifications for the tweets, so I actually saw them while the game was going on.
Yep.
Did you say keep it on mutant?
Yep.
Okay.
I did.
Go ahead.
Was there more breaking news? Or was that the breaking news?
That was it.
Oh, okay. All right. Next week's game of the week on the girls' side will be the aforementioned Central Wisconsin Storm. They will travel down to Madison Ice Arena and take on the Metro Lynx on Saturday. Dell will be covering that game, and that's going to be for a special cause, a Leukemia Lymphoma Society game for Noah Sanger, who is the son of former UW assistant coach Jeff Sanger. Now, one of the players from the Metro Lynx, Ava Jambor, kind of set that all up. She's friends of the Sanger family, and so they're going to have the benefit, and they're going to have raffles. There's going to be sales of, I believe, bracelets and other type of jewelry that one of the girls down there makes. It's all for a really good cause, the Leukemia Lymphoma Society game, and that'll take place at Madison Ice Arena at about 2:30, I believe the face-off is. On the boys' side, I will be at that one, Arrowhead at Fond du Lac at the Fond du Lac Blue Line Ice Center, Saturday at 7 p.m. And that's going to be, it's called the JM21 Remembrance Game. And it's in memory of Jeff Merrill, who died in a Fond du Lac hockey game in January of 1989. A little story behind that all is that he was playing in the game. He was a sophomore. He was playing and he got checked. And as he was going down, one of his own teammates tragically shot the puck and it hit him in the chest, kind of underneath the pads. The pads kind of rode up a little bit and basically just kind of stopped his heart. And they tried to resuscitate him and he died right on the ice. So pretty tough. I can't imagine, So the JM21 Remembrance Game will be held Saturday, 7 p.m. at the Fond du Lac Ice Center, and I'll be covering that one. So a couple of good games that we have for very good causes. We like to really kind of feature those games, and we think these will be two really good ones. And if you get a chance, try to get out to see them. Be well worth it.
Okay, Michael, we'll look forward to reports on both those games. You and Dell are going to be covering those games, and good. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, it's not a game of the week, but should University School and Northland Pines both win on Friday, Bill Jr. and I will be making the trek back up to Eagle River for the just on the event that Pines and University School play each other in the championship game of that tournament.
That's an interesting tournament because they go up there every year. USM does. And in fact, the year that they won the state championship in 2006, the only loss they had was to Northland Pines in the Northland Pines Classic, in the Pines Classic. And the one thing that was always talked about was how small the neutral zone is there. Burglar, you've been there many times, and I'm sure you can attest to that as well. 3
strides.
That's it?
All right, maybe 4. Depends on how long your legs are. Yeah, it's very tight. The face-off circle they have, around the center ice face-off circle?
Mm-hmm.
It practically touches the blue lines.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that's not much room at all, but that should be an interesting matchup.
If our Sunday men's league is anything to base it on, getting rid of the neutral zone would probably just make hockey better all around. Offensive zone, defensive zone, that whole transition area in the middle of the ice is just where people screw up. So just get rid of that. It's probably safe all around.
So, MJ, you've made one trip to the Dome, haven't you?
Yeah, just once.
Okay.
A couple of years ago. I was finally able to cross that off my Wisconsin hockey bucket list, if you want to call it that. It's an old throwback. It'd be, for example, like baseball. It would be like one of the older stadiums.
Well, and speaking of that, they need a new refrigeration system for their rink. Their refrigeration system, the flooring, the concrete floor with all the coils in there, that's 50 years old, and the whole thing has to be replaced. They're estimating $1.5 million they need for repairs. So Save the Dome. Send your checks to, what was the site they had set up for that, Bill?
GoFundMe.com/SaveTheDome.
Or did they not?
Probably ERA, right? Eagle River Recreation Association.
Yeah, if you go to the ERA website, the ERRA.com, they actually have a link to their GoFundMe page, GoFundMe.com/SaveTheDome.
It is a national treasure.
So all you big businesses that are listening to our podcast, you looking for a place for a tax write-off? Send it to the Dome.
Save the Dome. Don't let it fall like the Metrodome did with the snow all caving in.
Well, don't compare the Dome in Eagle River to that dump.
No. And the only other thing that could happen here is that, if the temperature on Saturdays, like they say, if it's going to be like 15 below, that rink is cold enough anyway that, we may just chicken out and go to KB Willett and watch Verona and Smash because it'll be much warmer.
After we were talking about the Dome, that brings up a quick question from me. The Dome to me was, probably the biggest rink that I wanted to be able to see, through the hockey rinks here in the state. What would be your top 5 in hockey rinks in the state, guys?
The Dome would be one of mine.
That's the only one with any real history, like, for me, that I know of at all. Like, I don't know how long has Superior been playing in their rink. Did they build a new one at some point?
Well, they actually play at Westman Arena, which is the University of Wisconsin Superior's rink, and that's been there since when the heck was I in junior high school? It's been around since maybe 1970.
It's just, I don't know that there's a lot of historic rinks out there. I mean, what makes the Dome different is, that's a wooden dome. There are not a lot of those out there. It's unique in that way, and there's other quirks and things about it. But yeah, it's been there since 1925. It's been renovated a couple times, but that's a long time. I don't know that I don't know that there's any other rinks in Wisconsin that I would be like, I gotta go see that place.
Yeah, my second favorite rink then to go to would be actually not in Wisconsin, but up in Eveleth, Minnesota, and the Hippodrome, which is also an old rink.
I would like to go to the rink in Mosinee to see if they ever put in walls.
They did.
Okay, because when I was a kid, there was just a tarp behind the benches, and it was cold. So, I'd like to go see the walls.
Well, Lloyd still has that. And I'll tell you, this week, I don't know if they have any home games this week, but boy, that ice is going to be good down there. But you're going to play down there at a price because it's going to be cold. They got heaters above the bench. You can't stand up on the back part of the bench or anything because the heaters are down that low. But that wind comes through those tarps, and holy smokes, it gets cold in there. Same thing used to be with the old Tomo rink. I remember the one there on the fairgrounds. That one was another one that was cold. The wind coming through there made things rather chilly. But yeah, I don't think there's really a whole lot of them that you want to say, God, I got to go see that. The Dome was one I finally got to go see, and it was everything you guys said it would be. One that I would find interesting, though, would be down here in Madison, Madison Ice Arena and Hartmeyer, just for the simple fact of all the, the good Madison schools that went through here. Mark Johnson and Bob Suter played against each other in these rinks. Back in the day, this, there may be a little bit of history to those two.
Well, that's like saying that, Milwaukee County Stadium was a great baseball park because, Robin Yount played there. Milwaukee County Stadium was a dump.
By the time they ripped it down, yes, it was.
Well, Hartmeyer, that's where the 1980 Olympic team actually did a little bit of their practices. But, they had, for a long time, they actually had the Olympic flag hanging up in there.
Yeah.
But I was just curious if there's any other rinks. I've been to the Dome up there in Eagle River a couple different times for youth games, not for any high school games. But so I guess with that, MJ, you're about ready to go on to our next segment, huh?
I'm sorry, what was that, Del?
I said, I guess you're about ready to go on to our next segment here, huh?
Yeah, I'm ready to go on to our next segments. Final thoughts. And Trasher's got some stuff that he wants to talk about. And Dell, I see your name in down there too. You got something that's bothering you?
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about officiating.
Okay, you can do that after Trasher talks about his two subjects that are dear to his heart. Michael, go ahead.
I won't be too long, believe it or not. My final thoughts are one that I had been talking about practically the last 3 or 4 weeks is the Hobie Baker Character Award. The deadline for that is February 4th. So, coaches, if you're listening, make sure you get your worthwhile senior in. This is a Best Kid Award, not a Best Player Award. Parents, get on the coaches. Make sure that one of your kids gets nominated because we should have 100% participation in this. The other one I want to talk about is the Jeff Sauer Award. And this is designed to encourage community service among girls and boys. Doesn't sound like I'm reading this off a piece of paper. High school hockey players in Wisconsin. It is named after Jeff Sauer, the legendary former UW coach and hockey ambassador who died in February 2017. The award's goal is to recognize good high school hockey players being great people. It will be awarded by current UW coach Tony Granato on the eve of the WIAA state tournament. That'll be on Wednesday night before the state tournament. Please submit your nominations by January 31st. So this is the same deal. Coaches, if you're listening, make sure to nominate one of your kids that is a great person as well as a good hockey player. Last year, Shane Ryan, a senior goaltender from Madison Edgewood, was the first recipient of the award. And this is another one. Between this one and the Hobie Baker Character Award, two really good pieces of information to have on a college resume. So make sure you get some kids nominated for those two very worthwhile awards. And with that, I will pass it over to Dell.
Thanks, Trasher. And actually, the officiating I want to talk about, I'm not complaining about the officials. My thing is, we're still need to remember we're talking sports going on here at the high school level and even beyond that at the youth level. Anybody that watched the NFL playoffs this weekend saw what happens at the highest level of officiating. Blown calls, mistakes are made. You saw for those that watched it, saw a pass interference call that wasn't made that could have very possibly cost the team a chance of going to the Super Bowl. In the other game, there was a roughing the passer call for hitting Brady in the head, and the replay showed that it never didn't come close to hitting him in the head, hit him on the shoulder and on the arm. But the thing is, if mistakes are being made at that level, and now we're going to drop it down to the college, high school, youth levels, mistakes are going to be made. These are human beings. They cannot see everything. They're actually looking at something that they might be 3 feet away from and don't get as big a wide view of what you're seeing from the stands or even for the coaches on the bench. And the coaches have been pretty well this year at the games I've been at, keeping things, going and setting good examples for their players as to how to treat the coaches. Where I want to raise my concern is fans need to understand and never, ever confront a referee after a game. You're setting an example for your children. This is a game where they're supposed to be learning teamwork and everything and respect for the officiating and what's going on there. And for somebody to confront a referee as he's coming off the ice or after a game is just unacceptable all around. What I'm asking parents to do is to remember to keep the games fun for their kids and to treat the referees with respect and understand that mistakes are going to be made. Nobody's perfect here. And with that, I'm going to toss it back over to MJ.
Do you want my rebuttal on the whole thing?
Go ahead.
What you're saying there? No, Dell, I totally agree. Especially at the youth level, it's ridiculous. I mean, that's why kids a lot of times they get into it. I want to make a couple extra bucks and stuff like that, and that's fine. But so many of them get out because they just don't, they don't want to be yelled at all the time. I mean, yeah, they're human. I mean, even at the North American Hockey League level that we have here in town, referees get rode pretty hard about stuff. And one of the things I always remind myself of, this is also a development league for them. So they want to go higher. They're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. So, not say you got to hug your ref or anything, your local ref, but, they try. They try to do their best, and, things don't always get called. Del, excellent topic.
And I'd like to take this opportunity to apologize to the referee up in Eagle River for my earlier comments on the evening, questioning his penalty call.
I don't. I demand perfection. No, the problem is that, and this is true of all youth sports at every level, is that the parents in the stands need to shut up. This goes for us in the stands you've had kids come up through sports. MJ, you've got a kid playing for a high school team right now. Trasher's daughter graduated a few years ago. We've been parents in stands. Parents in stands need to shut up. The only thing that should come out of your mouth when you're in the stands is, yay! You should be cheering. At no point should you be yelling at an official. At no point should you be yelling at a player. At no point should you be yelling at a coach. You cheer, you clap, or you shut your mouth. Sorry,
I'm pretty passionate
I'm
about
sorry
that.
if I'm sound a little salty about it, but the biggest problem with youth sports nationwide, regardless of sport, is the parents.
Well, you're starting to sound more and more like Dad.
Well, once you sit in the stands at a hockey game or two, you start hearing people say stuff, and you're like, just shut up.
Mm-hmm.
I will make one addition to that. The only player that you can yell at is your own kid.
No, don't yell at your kid.
You can't yell at your kid unless it's encouragement.
Especially don't yell at your kid.
My common refrain was, Bubbles, what the hell are you doing? That's it. That's it.
And the thing is, I will admit, as a parent, I was guilty at times at yelling about things, and it was what I thought was a missed call. But having been a parent of a referee, having officiated high school football games, I can understand there's the mistakes that can be made. And having coached, the one thing I used to try to remind my parents was, let me be the bad guy, the one that has criticized your player, because while I try to end all my practices on positive notes with everybody, if it ever came to the point that I didn't do it, I asked the parents to let me be the bad guy. Let me be the one that was telling them what they're doing wrong. Let them do all the encouragement and everything, just in case I didn't end the note on a positive thing. But the parents need to really encourage the kids, because sometimes the thing that sticks in the kid's head is the coach having come across saying, okay, you got to be in this position, and then we don't always come back and say, yeah, you did that great, after we've done that and everything. And that's one reason that the parents have got to be the positive person. Okay, this, and maybe even if it's just saying, okay, well, this is what the coach actually meant, to do what the coach is telling you to do. But, he's just trying to get you there, just be positive with them. And so that they learn and understand that the coaches are trying to, get them to play their best and put them in the best position to succeed.
Well, Bill Jr. played goalie for 4 years?
Yeah.
3 or 4 years.
4 years.
And yes, and his mother, yelling encouragement from the stands, and her and I think half of the parents, I think the most common phrase from them was, "Billy, get up."
That was one of Lori's about Mason.
He would drop down to cover the puck, and he'd say, "Billy, get up."
Yeah.
But I've always maintained my favorite team. I've said this before. My favorite team to coach would be a team from a well-funded orphanage.
I hope you're not going to take credit for that.
Nope.
No, seriously though, going back to what I said before, yeah, we kind of, as goalie parents, you know how it is. Sometimes you're like, oh man, how'd you let that one go through? But I told Emily two things before the game. I said, play hard and have fun. And I think if more parents would have that attitude, the sport would be a lot better. And especially if they would respect the officials, respect their decisions, and like Dell said, understand that they're human. They make mistakes. I mean, we make mistakes. How'd you like somebody to sit by your desk in your office and every time you screwed up, give you an earful? I mean, you wouldn't like it. So go easy on the refs. Parents, be positive for your players and make it a better sport for everybody.
And I don't,
Guys, that's all I got.
I don't want it to sound like I hate all the parents all the time. It's just that when you start yelling like that, it doesn't help. If the official blows a call and you start shouting, it doesn't help. When has it ever helped? It's not going to make the situation better. It only ever makes the situation worse. Positivity.
Sometimes it helps you get an early exit of the rink, because that referee has the right to say, you out. If the parent is too obnoxious or too offensive or whatever the case may be. More than once I've watched a few parents get booted out of the rink. But one of the other things that I also learned when I first started covering hockey 20 years ago, once I started learning more about the game, I found out there was less that, really didn't need to complain about, maybe understood it a little bit more. So sometimes maybe it's just a point of just learning more about the game and the rules and things like that. And,
are you saying
enjoy it more.
The loudest ones know the least about the game?
Sometimes, yes.
Quite often, yes.
Hockey's got to be a tough game to follow for a parent who's never played and their kid wants to play. I mean, that's got to be tough. Like, everybody knows how to play baseball. This is, America, that's a thing. But, you go to a hockey game and, yeah, if you never played and you never really followed hockey and then your kid's like, I want to play hockey. And, yeah, you're not the person who should be shouting stuff from the stands because you have no idea what's going on.
At that point, when the kids start getting into learn to play, learn to play. There also should be a learn the hockey, a hockey 101 for parents at that point.
Hockey for Dummies book is out there.
Yeah, but then
I had it.
Then they'd be shouting at their mites and squirts. Why aren't you cycling?
Well, what's kind of funny about that, talking about the newbie parents, the first year, they pretty much say, oh, I don't really know much about the game, but by year 3, they're the biggest experts out there. So, they learn fast, or they think they do. It's a tough game. I mean, I've been following it since I actually didn't start following hockey till my son started playing back in the mid-90s, only like 25 years, and I still don't know everything about the game. There's all these nuances. It's a tough game to figure out, and if you say you know all of it, your name is probably Mark Johnson or somebody like that. The average guy doesn't know everything, and so don't think you do.
Well, the funny part about it is I went a few years ago and watched my nephew playing a youth hockey game, and I watched this team killing off the penalty, and I watched them ice the puck, and all of a sudden I hear the whistle blow and everything else, and I'm standing there, and I actually asked one of the other parents, okay, why are they bringing the puck back? Well, at that point they had changed the rules, since my kids had played youth hockey, where you can't ice the puck when you're killing the penalty. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, they just changed that a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was something different for me to have to get used to watching youth hockey.
And when you get to high school, what are you trained to do when you're killing off a penalty? Ice the puck. Send it all the way down. And if you're in that situation in youth hockey, what do you got to do? You got to suck it up and get it out to the neutral zone, I guess. Or don't ice it all the way down. Burglar, this is where you're supposed to tell me that I'm wrong about that.
I would never do that, MJ. Not to you.
All right, boys. Think we had enough for one night?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Great topic, Del. Good job. So for Del, the two Bergs, Trasher, I'm Mike Hammond. Hey, we'll catch you next week. Hope you enjoyed this edition. You got any thoughts or comments? Send them to Trasher. He loves them. You've been listening to This Week in Wisconsin Prep Hockey.